Hi, I'm Gary Kim with PTC TV, and I'm here today with two gentlemen from NTT Global Data Centers, Joe Goldsmith and Steve Manos. Guys, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here.
We appreciate you having us.
Joe, the first thing from a high-level perspective, what are clients asking you for?
So, just to sort of set the stage, I think the days of that static workload, that static compute with a very predictive consumption is gone. What we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot of dynamics in utilization. We're seeing a lot of customers that they're delivering their product or service via the data center infrastructure. And so whether it's storage or whether it's software as a service or a native cloud, and thus the utilization and the consumption of that compute is all over the map. So when you ask the customer, how much capacity do you need? They say, well, I'm not quite sure. It's going to change. It's going to be between here and here. We need to make sure that you as the provider have the ability to scale to meet my needs whenever I need it. So you need to move quickly. We need to tip up infrastructure very quickly in order to make sure that we can capture their requirement, because they're out there winning business and they're using that infrastructure to go make money for the firm.
I would assume that your volume and dimensioning tasks have become much more difficult since we've moved from sort of traditional corporate enterprise data center needs to application providers, because they often can't predict what the demand's going to be. I mean, is that what you're seeing?
That's absolutely right. If you think of the data center world 10 years ago, you were seeing 2 megawatts being built, and maybe a customer might use that over some period of time. 2 megawatts now is sort of nothing in the broader scheme of that service provider that you talked about. And so now they're talking about 10 megawatts, 20 megawatts, and the other thing that the customers want to see is that you've got runway to that scale. They want to see a campus. In the old world, a building was sufficient, and maybe it could yield 6 megawatts. Nowadays, if you don't have line of sight to 20 to 30 to 50 and beyond, then that's a hindrance to their business, because then they have to go look elsewhere. So being able to scale at that level has become really critical.
Can you sort of quantify sort of percentage of customers in terms of bare wire, I need to own the entire server, versus, yeah, it's virtualized, so just give me the resources I need. I don't actually have to have my own dedicated servers.
Steve, I'll defer to you on some of this, but my sense is that almost everybody is in a hybrid environment right now, where they're running some baseline infrastructure and then they're utilizing a cloud service as an augment to that.
Yep. No, I mean, that's exactly what it is. I think, from our standpoint, it's, I wouldn't say, I don't know if you could put a percentage on that per se, but I would say that, I think you're spot on as far as that goes, yeah.
Yeah. Other trends in the industry that you may be seeing at the moment?
As a provider, some of the trends that we're seeing is, or at least from our standpoint, it's, we have to have, what people want, where they want it, when they want it, right? So from our standpoint, it's, we've got, three markets right now, right? We've got Virginia, we've got Texas, we've got California, right? It's, our customers are saying, well, what else do you got? We've got to expand. So we're putting in, 4 additional markets this year. We've got Chicago coming out of the ground. We've got Santa Clara, coming out of the ground. Hillsboro, Oregon, and one other one that we're about to announce as well. So I think in my world, I head up the hyperscale team for the U.S. So the trends we're seeing with them are not only new markets, but also we're growing in pre-existing markets, right? Take Northern Virginia and Santa Clara, for instance, right? Northern Virginia, everybody still needs to grow and expand in those, in those areas. So for us, we've got obviously VA1 through VA3, we've got fully built. We've got VA4 that's built now, 32 megawatts. We've got VA5 that's well underway, out of the ground.
Ashburn.
Ashburn, right? So you've got 64 megawatts that we've got there, and then we've got, like Joe was saying, we got this long runway. We've got a 78 acre campus there, so we've got a long runway there for those folks. And I think that Silicon Valley's a little different, right? Silicon Valley, I think, is capacity constrained, so I think it's great for us, as a company to have 16 megawatts coming out of the ground there, and kind of I guess a great aspect to that too is, the fact that it's going to be the first earthquake-resistant data center in that market. So it gives our customers peace of mind, which is nice. But
I think another trend that we're seeing is, again, going back to that sort of capacity management concept. We've got some of our larger customers, sort of that top 10 in that scale, global, hyperscale, whatever you might want to call it, and they say, I want to know that I can have in 2 years my own building.
Yeah.
I want my own building. I want it right there.
Yeah.
And so the commitment to land banking and the campus environment for us has really become very compelling, because we can now point out we've got the depth of capital access. Right? This isn't a business where we need to go scurry around and go try to raise some funding or go take some debt in order to be able to go deliver. Mm-hmm. We go to our capital pool that's been allocated, and we'll tip that up. And in some cases, that customer might say, I just want shell and core. I'll take it, and then I'll build it out as I go on an incremental basis. Or, frankly, now we're behind. We need to build the whole thing out, and we need, and our load package is generally a 2-story, 36 or 32 megawatt building. And if you think about the data center business 5 years ago, 10 years ago, excuse me, that was a ton of capacity. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, of course, as you mentioned, Ashburn, Virginia, and some of these other markets, that's being consumed.
Yep.
Now, your customer base and owner are global.
Correct.
I assume, then you guys have come out of the U.S. market, but I assume you've got plans for global connectivity, because your customers have got to be asking you for that now.
Thanks for the softball, Gary. NTT, of course, the legacy of the business is it's a network and telecommunications provider. Mm-hmm. And so when you think of the data center as that foundation layer, the very first thing we want to layer on top in terms of a product or service is that access to the NTT Global Network. Mm-hmm. So every one of the data centers in the United States has access to the NTT Global Network, which of course all of the other data centers throughout the global portfolio have the same. Mm-hmm. And so we've now created that sort of ease of access point, whether it's from the U.S. to Asia, the U.S. to Europe, et cetera. And so when you think about the portfolio of NTT companies, not only is it the network, but it's the products and services that sit on top of that, whether it's data security, fit out, infrastructure, provisioning of equipment. For example, if you need to go tip up a network node in Singapore, and you're an American-based business, that could be very daunting. We'll take that, we'll run with that, you'll give us that rack profile, we'll go provision that equipment in country, tip it up, and hand it to you. Yep. And so the foundation layer of the data center is, of course, the piece that allows it all to evolve. But then when you start talking about the legacy of NTT affiliate companies and products and services on top of that, it's a really neat, finished capabilities service.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gentlemen, thanks very much for sharing your views. Very informative.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Thank you.
And thanks for watching PTC TV.
Thank you.